Well, amid the frenzied reporting of the US midterms, one incident really stood out with Donald Trump's fiery confrontation with a CNN reporter making international headlines.
The reporter, Jim Acosta from CNN, pressed the president and asked if he thought that he had, quote, demonised migrants. Now, let's take a look at what happened.
I think you should let me run the country. You run CNN.
All right.
And if you did it well, your ratings would be much better.
If I may ask one other question, Mr. President, if I may ask one other question, are you worried?
That's enough. That's enough.
Mr. President, I was going to ask one of the other folks.
That's enough.
Pardon me, ma'am. Mr. President,
that's enough.
Mr. President, I had one other question, if I may ask, on the Russia investigation. Are you concerned that you may have?
I'm not concerned about anything with the Russian investigation because it's a hoax. That's enough. Put down the mic.
Mr. President, are you worried about indictments coming down in this investigation?
Well, stunningly dramatic scenes, and that is our starting point for tonight's panel chat. We are joined by Claire Kimball, founder of The Squiz and former media advisor to former Prime Minister Tony Abbott, and Shane Oliver, chief economist at AMP Capital. Claire, I might start with you here naturally, because you've been on both sides of this. I mean, you've been a media advisor to a former Prime Minister, and of course, founder of Squiz. You are now a card-carrying member of the media. So, what do you think?
Really?
Of course. Come on. We're happy to have you.
Oh, thank you.
So, what do you think when you see that vision?
I think it's a tactic, and I think it's something that works extremely well for Donald Trump. I remember the night he was elected and seeing, I think it was on CNN, the journalist talking about, you know, there was a plane trip coming up, he wasn't going to let the media on, it was an outrage, you know, media not allowed on. It's like, you guys don't get it yet. He's not playing the game, and he's not going to play the game. And until you sort of catch up with that, it's unorthodox, it's ugly, it's really, really ugly, but gee, it's effective.
I mean, it's pretty shocking to see, though. I mean, as a member of the public, you've got to wonder, Shane, does it make you likeable as a president, or does he just not care?
I think it makes him laughable as a president, and I reckon that's the way most Australians would see it. Whether you're a part of his base or not, you would see that as a joke, the way he does this sort of stuff. I'm surprised that it does make him likeable to some of his base, though. And I do worry that you know, things have really gone off the rails here. But I think at the end of the day, you have to rely on the media to make the politicians honest and keep them to their word. And I sort of wonder that this might go a little bit too far and you end up with suppression of the media. That said, I reckon this reminds me incredibly of Nixon. And at the end of the day, Nixon was the one who lost out. He was paranoid about the media. He made all sorts of. They got him in the end, and someone will get Trump in the end here.
Yeah, because he even had someone backing him up as well. One of the other reporters, I think from NBC, was backing him up. Yeah. So,
and that was the whole next bit of the footage of Donald Trump shutting that down as well. But I think the interesting thing too around this, the Republicans love seeing him fight, and that's been a big part of his supporters. He's not just fighting the Democrats; he's fighting the other group that they think is equally culpable in, you know, this sort of United States politics that they don't sign up to, and that's the media, and they love the fight. There's no doubt about it.
I mean, he picks fights all over town. He picks fights with China.
Exactly.
He picks fights with.
It's just another part of that.
Basically everyone. But so I suppose the question then becomes, if you're a leader in Australia or somewhere else in the world and you see this, the way he's going about it, do you think that there's any cue to say that is actually kind of effective? Maybe I could afford to be a bit more combative with the media. Do you think that this is kind of opening the floodgates a bit?
Nice segue. Cue Scott Morrison this week. So you'll see quite a few clips this week of him. I'm not answering that.
Yeah.
And I think the trick always, you know, from the political side is, particularly at the moment where we're getting into a campaign cycle, it's very much about the pictures and it's about the grabs on TV. You answer the questions you want to. You're not there to necessarily answer the questions the journalists put, and I know that's really hard to hear. I know, I get it.
But I've got to say, I mean, it's just interesting, right? In terms of the likability of these people, surely you've got to be a certain type of person to be liked for doing that. I mean, Donald Trump, we all knew what he was like from the very get-go. He hasn't changed. You know, one thing you can say is he stayed the same. He certainly has been consistent. Whereas if you see sort of perhaps our Prime Minister or someone in politics here at home that hasn't necessarily been like that in the past suddenly turn into that, that might not sit well with the public.
It probably wouldn't go down that well in Australia. I think Australians rely on the media and they believe that there's still a high level of trust in the media.
There's not.
There's not.
No,
absolutely
not.
not.
Australia.
No. You get into the polls, it's about 30, 31%.
Really?
It's about at the same level as politicians.
Yeah.
And this is the sort of the fake news, as it's being called, that it's kind of gone international now?
Yeah, absolutely. We're on par with the US, the UK, all of those sort of societies.
And there was something I saw on Twitter
Yeah.
where this person had come across a car which had a sticker in the window which says, "Stop fake news, punch a journalist." And I thought to myself, well, if I saw that sticker there and a journalist was about to be punched, I'd stand in the way, because I think journalism plays an incredibly important role in our democracy. That journalist there, Jim Acosta, was just asking about immigrants and whether Trump was saying there's an invasion going on. The journalist was just trying to point out that the caravan of migrants are actually hundreds of kilometres away. So,
and I think the serious point too, Shane, if this heads into a space where we've seen in the last couple of weeks in the States of extreme behaviour, deaths, killings, pipe bombs, against people that Donald Trump and others, the breadth of politics incite violence against.
But that would work against him. The shooting in the synagogue worked against him. But you could argue he incited it.
Well, even though it was done by a guy that didn't support Donald Trump.
And you worry, I don't want to say his base, likes violence or anything, but it does sort of play to that, doesn't it, in terms of what Donald Trump condones and the way that he talks, the aggressive nature.
Yeah, of course it does. And I think these are complicated issues, and it's only going to get uglier in the next 2 years with the consequences of what's gone down in the midterms. It's going to be really fascinating.
It is. This is a big topic. Yeah, absolutely, and it's a big topic that we decided to start with first. But we have got other topics to get through. So another story that we found particularly interesting today was turned up in the SMH. It was what is an arts degree worth? Now, this is Jess Irvine wrote this one. Kind of putting the number at $200,000 for an arts degree. Now, the question comes down to, is it worth that amount of money? Is it worth any amount of money these days? I mean, we've got Year 12 leavers, heading into uni. The question, Shane, I might start with you, should they be shepherded away from the arts department, do you think?
Well, on the basis of those numbers, the answer is yes, because it was $200,000 for an arts degree. I think it was $500,000, and this is extra earnings compared to a standard high school graduate with no more than your high school qualification. So $200,000 extra over your lifetime for an arts degree. I think it was $500,000 on average for a general university degree. So obviously on those numbers, you should be shepherded in a different direction. I'm not sure that's what the country needs, though. The benefit of an arts degree is that it gives you that broad skill in terms of thinking. Not just in terms of narrow discipline, but thinking more broadly. And in this environment that we're going through, you could argue that you need broad thinkers, not narrow thinkers.
Do you think it even matters what you study at university? And how long until after you graduate does it become obsolete? Does it not matter?
It's interesting. I've had a set of parents, my sort of cohort of school friends haven't quite got to the university age with their kids, but parents that I know in the broader circle who are steering their kids away from university into more sort of technical training for these sort of reasons about the breadth of university degrees. But I did an arts degree and I turned out all right. Yeah. It's fine. I think we've started doing podcasts with the Squiz, and we've just done one on the future of work. And the interesting thing around critical thinking skills and being flexible and actually having that framework where you can look at broad subjects and actually apply a way of thinking is just going to be so critical. Of course, data and tech and hard-end STEM kind of courses are too, but this ability to think is
what those
is
numbers may show is that the ATAR to get into an arts degree is much lower than it is for many other qualifications. So the level of ability of people studying arts might be on average lower than it is for studying other courses. The other thing is that employers have traditionally focused more on, like if you're a finance company, you go for the finance graduates. If you're an engineer, you go for the engineers, and so on and so forth. That thinking might be okay to a point, but if we need a world of critical thinking and more flexibility in the terms of the way people analyse things, then maybe the value being placed on an arts degree is just too low.
It's interesting because in the US they have a very general system as well where they all start with those sort of degrees and then they specialise after that. I mean, is that something that we could do here, or is that just more years at university?
It would be hard pressed to get kids, I think, and parents to get their heads around that.
It is fun though.
It's too much fun.
It's a great time. I mean, look, the question is whether it helps you that much when you walk into a job interview, because I did one of these broad degrees as well. I did media and communications first, went out there, tried to get a job, had a bit of a hard time. time, had to go back and get a much more specified. I ended up going back and spending quite a bit more time at uni getting a double master's degree. And still, when I went into employers, they just didn't really want to know that much about the university. It was more about the practical application of the skill. So, you know, do you think that there's an issue there?
And this is the thing, isn't it? It's these well-rounded kids. It's these kids with great experiences and the ability to actually operate in the world. Their skills will be really highly sought after. And again, my friends with kids, and they're shepherding their kids off to not only sport and music and everything, it's arts and, you know, culture and all these sorts. It's a lot of pressure. I think there's got a lot to be said for being specific, but if you can be rounded and broad, it's got to be a really great skill.
Just quickly, Shane, there's a lot of media attention on, you know, the Mark Zuckerbergs and the Steve Jobs and all these people who are, you know, billionaires and didn't finish uni. I mean, yes, they got into Harvard. Let's not forget. A lot of them were at Harvard, so they're obviously smart guys and ladies. But what do you make of that? Is there a trend towards that, Shane, do you think? To not finishing uni or not going to uni?
Yeah, but don't forget they were lucky to some degree. They had a bright idea 40 years ago, or whatever it was, and it paid off. So it's like someone who's a smoker and then living to 95 and then concluding from that, well, that's the way to go. If I smoke, I'll live to 95. It doesn't prove anything. I think at the end of the day, statistics are quite clear here that grads from university get paid more than people who don't have a university qualification. Now, the payoff may be declining over time because there's more and more people graduating from university and less people without that qualification, so there's more competition there. But still, they're the numbers, 500,000 extra over your lifetime if you have a university degree.
Yeah, another huge issue there. We're going to change gear again significantly.
It's very important.
It is. This is an important topic. Kylie Minogue is coming back to Australia to tour again. There's a lot of fanfare for this. She's 50. She's going to pull big crowds in Australia. A lot of people don't know this about you, Shane, but you're a fan. You know, are you going to be heading along?
I'll certainly be there, and I heard about this first from my sister, because my sister and I have been the ones going for the last... I first went with my wife, and then she lost interest after the first Kylie concert. It was a long time ago now. So my sister and I have been doing it for many years. But she sent me an email this morning saying that it's back on again, and did I want to go and did I want to get some tickets?
What's your favourite song? Yes. What's your favourite song, Shane?
My favourite song from Kylie.
Too hard?
You're putting one on the
Probably.
spot.
That is putting me on the... Better the devil you know. Better the devil you know.
Love it.
That's classic pop.
But everyone loves Kylie in Australia, don't they? I mean, it was my very first concert.
She's our Kylie.
So what do you think?
Mine
would you
was
be heading along?
Yeah, I would, absolutely. I mean, it's a great concert. She puts on a great show. I've been to a couple. They're fantastic fun. And it's great, the age range as well. I think the
age range is great. And it also makes my day. Earlier this year I was on holidays. I heard all the news about AMP while I was on holidays. So this is in April, Royal Commission.
Yeah.
And I'm driving along, and I knew the album had just come out, but I had to get the CD, because artists that I really like, I have to have the CD so I can look at the pictures, all that sort of stuff, see who wrote the songs. And I'm driving through Berry in south of here, and of course this little store there has Kylie's Golden in the window there, so I rushed in, immediately bought it and shoved it into the car, and it kept me happy all through that period of bad news about AMP. I'm thinking of Shelby 68, which was a song from that album. The other thing you notice about Kylie is that virtually all of the songs there have her name in the credits as one of the writers.
She's a talent.
This is a super fan of Kylie.
Absolutely.
So she's up there with Taylor in writing songs. Yeah, this is really...
She's talented as well.
Okay, that kind of brings us to the next question. The best concert you've ever been to, was it a Kylie show or was it something else?
It comes close. Kylie comes very close. But actually, I'd have to say it was the Beach Boys in 1992. They came to Narrabeen. If you listen to the song Surfing USA, the only other place mentioned outside of the USA in Surfing USA is Narrabeen, Australia. So they came to Narrabeen, Australia in 1992, summer afternoon, November, northeasterly breeze blowing, sunny, and it was probably one of the best days I've ever had, that concert.
Claire, how about you?
I was lucky to go to see Prince, a piano and a microphone, and weeks later he died.
Oh, so you were at that very famous special show that nobody really knew was going to happen?
Exactly.
Oh, wow, what was it like?
Yeah, it was fantastic. I mean, I'm a bit sort of like Shane is about Kylie, about Prince. I just adore, and...
Well, they've both had longevity, haven't they?
Oh, God, yeah, absolutely. Ingrid, what about you?
You're putting me on the spot. Actually, I got to say, this year I went to Alanis Morissette, and that's kind of like Kylie, because she came back and did a show, and it was actually really good, but it's old school.
She's a talent.
It's old school.
Love it.
Claire, what about you, quickly?
Oh, okay, Ryan Adams, a couple of years ago, I went with my fiancée. It was just fantastic. Loved it.
There you go.
There you go.
Claire Kimball, Shane Oliver, a great place to end the panel. Thanks for joining us on the program today.